Okay, so I think we can start, and thanks to all who are joining today to our webinar, Is This the End of the Migration Era? Empowering Migrations to Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. And today we have two guest speakers joining us from Microsoft and partner organization, and our Companial expert Martynas also joining us today together with me. So let me introduce our speakers. Tim Shaw, joining from Microsoft Australia, will draw us a line about Business Central Online new features and also about the features that help to facilitate migrations to Business Central Online. Also, Tim will share some incentives from Microsoft that help to facilitate also the movement to BC Online. So stay tuned. Next, we will have Rene Santos joining from Performance Advantage System Organization. Rene is CEO of the company, and Rene will share his overview, his experience with Business Central implementations and challenges his business is facing in the market. Later, Martynas will take over and share Companial migration strategies of what is Companial experience and how we are moving NAV applications to Business Central Online. I'm just welcoming you today for this webinar. I will be a moderator. My name is Ugne, and I'm regional lead for the rest of the world at Companial. So very nice to meet you all, and thanks again for joining. So shortly about Companial, but before I explain who we are and why we are hosting this webinar, I would like to post a poll in the chat and understand your partner experiences of how many customers you have moved already to the cloud. So it will be very interesting to see how much of business you're already carrying on the cloud. So you can see now the poll on the screens. Please hit the answer which corresponds the best to your actual experience, and then we'll see the final answers and we can comment them. So, and I'm coming back to who we are as Companial, and Companial is recognized as the expert in migrations to cloud since 2009, and we have more than 200 employees, and we say if we add all of their experience on Dynamics, we would have more than 2,000 years of experience here. And you know how difficult it is to find an expertise in this Dynamics environment. So we are very happy to have this team who has the capacity and capability on Dynamics 365. Also, to enable the cloud, we help partners to move their NAV Business Central installations on Microsoft Azure. So we have hosted more than 1,000 of those NAV or Business Central applications on Microsoft Azure Cloud. We are also not only doing Business Central, but we also do finance and supply chain management, customer engagement, sales, field services. And for that, we have extensive amounts of hours, development hours that we do each year to support partner businesses on Dynamics 365. We also help ISV solutions to expose themselves towards other resellers. As you know, we are not only software services company, but also indirect CSP provider in Europe. So especially those global ISVs that want to establish and expand their business in Europe, we do have a marketplace available, and we have more than 70 solutions deployed there. Our experience on upgrades is really extraordinary. We have completed more than 700 upgrades from NAV to Business Central and from AX to Finance and Supply Chain Management. So if you're looking for experts on migrations, we are here to help. Overall, since 2009, we have worked with more than 1,000 Dynamics partners all across the globe. So we are proud and very happy of having such a wide and diverse community of Microsoft Dynamics 365 partners. Also, for the 8th year in a row, we are recognized by Microsoft and are in the inner circle members. So we are happy to voice the experiences and feedback of our partners to Microsoft executives there and to use that forum. We are also appointed Microsoft ISV Development Center, working with Microsoft on business application strategic initiatives and helping on migration and modernization programs, both in Business Central and finance and supply chain management. As a partner, we are also gold certified in 3 areas, that is ERP, application development, and cloud platform. And last but not the least, we are also Microsoft Learn partner together with Platan in our Companial group. We are providing also academy services to increase the knowledge of Dynamics of our Dynamics partners. And now Tim will take over and share with us what's new in Dynamics 365 Business Central. What are the features? What are the features that help to facilitate the migration to BC Online? What are the benefits to the partner, and what are the incentives that helps to trigger the motion to the cloud? So Tim, over to you.
Thanks, Ugna, and it's awesome to be here today and get to talk to the partners with you. And I suppose when I look at this is a good way for our partners to enable their growth by having that support behind you from a partner that's actually working with a lot of partners and seeing a lot of the different options and things you can do with our products in a global sort of scale. So it's really great to be here today. So I'm going to go through a couple of areas, but let me just start off with disruption is the new normal. So we talked about during the COVID, or we haven't talked about, but during the COVID period, we saw an accelerated pace of change. So we saw businesses looking to go into a digital model very quickly. So then they had to reinvent and started to try to adopt new digital business models. So the fact that COVID stopped people from coming to their shops or coming from their stores meant they needed to go online or find other ways. You know, we had many restaurants in my area all of a sudden offering delivery services that they hadn't have done before. So we had those two particular challenges or particular opportunities that happened due to COVID. But now we also see a little bit of global market volatility. And when we see that sort of thing happening where the global market's kind of not sure where it's going to go, we see people looking at doing either investing in optimization, or we see people slowing down investment. But from a business side and from a business application side, we see a lot of businesses start to look and think, how can I optimize my business? How can I do less with more? Or how can I make sure that I'm making the most of every opportunity that I have? Specifically, when you look at markets that have quite large markets and those businesses may only have a small percentage of their market, there's a lot to gain if they do things better. And then we have the last thing, the hybrid work and the gig economy. So the concept that people want to continue working from home, that the office space that I look at outside at Microsoft at the moment where I am is 50% full. But the reality is if we had everybody in the office, we wouldn't have enough chairs. So it's that sort of thing. So this is a new normal. It's a new world. It's we're not going, when we talk internally, we don't talk about going back to full on travel and going to meetings for every customer meeting or every partner meeting anymore. We talk about sometimes there's a need to travel, sometimes there's not. So this is very normal now. Then when we do work, we look at the different businesses. So are your customers prepared for rapid change? And I'll come back around why I'm talking about this in a second, because this really is the crux of why a partner might actually decide to, or a customer may decide to upgrade. So we've got this 20% of SMBs will cease operations by 2025 because they cannot pivot fast enough. So the agility is not there. They can't change. They can't service the customer need. And as a result, they don't grow. 73% of employees with flexible hybrid work options to stay post-pandemic. So it's a good number. I don't know exactly. That's coming off Gartner. But that's basically what we would see in certain countries around the world. And then the 76% of CFOs are dissatisfied with cross-functional collaboration to bridge the gap between operational and financial planning. So that's some of the information that comes from when we look at our customers. So if you're a customer and you've got a system, then at some stage you need to look at those systems in place and decide what to do with those systems. And that's kind of what today is about. So for starters, I'm going to start talking about why the online service. So why not stay with where they are? But if they do decide, well, if we can migrate them, why would they go to the online service? So I'll talk about that. I'll go across the Bridge to Cloud version 2, which is currently in market. And then I really want to talk about it from your perspective of what's in it for you as partners and why now is actually not the end of the migration era, why now is actually the migration era. And I think you'll hopefully learn something, or hopefully you'll get some insights or be able to give some insights back to us. So why do we look at this online service? For starters, when you look at Business Central, it's on top of the platform that Microsoft provides. So with Microsoft Azure, with all the services that we provide, that with the capability to use developer tools such as GitHub and Visual Studio Code, with the Power Platform, the ability to extend the capability or the business value back to a customer without extending the core application, and then the Microsoft 365 suite that works well just out of the box with Business Central. So whether it's Teams, whether it's you using the Outlook client and basically putting a quote through the Outlook client, whether you're using Excel for reporting or doing Word for documents, they're all fully tightly integrated. And I think when you look at using the online, this is all set up to work out of the box. And I think when I think about online, and I'll mention that here as well, but when I think about looking online, you're looking at a system that's deployed by Microsoft, that's maintained by Microsoft, and that goes through a number of testings per annum, what we call actually one per annum around what we call pen testing by third-party services to make sure the service is secured. If I compare that to an on-prem sort of environment or an environment with another provider providing the infrastructure or providing your own infrastructure in Azure, then the scale that you can get to from a security side and the focus is chalk and cheese. In other words, they can't focus as much on the security in a small operation of one customer than what you can when you're talking about 35,000 plus customers using Business Central across the world today. And that's kind of the first thing from my perspective. Then we talk about the security even a little bit more. The security is in the country I am in at the moment. Security is big things. We've had a lot of what do we call them? So a lot of large known business organizations have been infiltrated or have been hacked, and customers' data has been shared. So the application security in Business Central is built on the Microsoft Trust, is built on the Microsoft services, and it's very important to make sure that we can secure the application and can keep it secure. And I think on the scale that we do it at Microsoft, across 35,000 plus customers using BC today, it's very hard for anybody, and actually impossible for anybody else to get to that scale. So I think the security is super important. And for any business, security is super important. If we talk about the old days of when people are or still happening today, where they have computers in their office that are running applications they're using for the business, and the business gets broken into, the computers get stolen, business stops. The other side, if something goes wrong and they need to restore or back up, do they have that capability, and how long does that take? So all these things that we take for granted online that can become quite complicated if you're not an online service. Then we have this, the features not implemented on the on-premises. So out of the box, we have default Power BI reports, we have late payment prediction, things like the company hub, the external accountant capability, the ability to connect to Shopify, share to Teams, invite external accountant, and the capability to have sandboxes. So there's a number of these features not implemented on premise. There's other features which you would have to go and configure and set up for customers. So reality, if they go online, they're going to get more features in minutes versus someone needing to deploy and fix up and check and then do the security check. So there are more features than what's just here on the screen. But it's important to know that whilst we do still have customers using them on-prem, there's cases where that makes a lot of sense. The online system should be the default. Then we talk about the seamless service. So, and I kind of go back in the years where before we had Business Central, when we had Dynamics NAV or Navision before that, and we had partners implementing the products. And I remember going to, when I was with a partner at one stage, I remember going to the team in Denmark and said, Navision's got performance issues. And they said, no, it doesn't. And then I sat there and thought, well, yes, it does in certain cases. And you have that argument. So since we released Business Central, we have taken away a layer between us and the customer where we can see how the customers are using the system, and we can support you as partners and make rectification to any code that needs to be fixed. But we can also work to make the system perform. So with our service that we offer online, we do a lot of works in tuning and making sure our customers get the best experience and the capability to extend that if we need to. So we've done a lot of work on the performance over the last few years. So OData calls are now faster. You can now connect the system to Dataverse using APIs and have real-time information showing up in Dataverse that is actually in Business Central. We're opening pages faster. We have a performance toolkit to orchestrate tests on day and life operational scenarios. We also have the ability to look at telemetry, Visual Studio Code and AL language updates, support for additional 080 roles, the ability to restore environments to historical state. Then we have the Business Central ensuring that it confirms to different international standards and compliance. And then we have a whole heap of other seamless service. So what we've been doing ever since we released Business Central to the market is continuously going through performance enhancements as well as service enhancements to make sure the service is reliable. And when I think about that today, with the things such as telemetry, you now have the ability as a partner, despite not having access to SQL directly on service, to investigate the system and look for long-running queries, look for report execution, look at extension updates. And I just recently had a conversation with a customer here in Australia, where I am at the moment, that wanted to upgrade, but their biggest issue was we can't get access to SQL. And I said, well, what are you doing in SQL? And many of the things they're doing in SQL are covered here, but they were also using SQL to update the application, update the data directly. And I said, well, that's a no-no. Doing that directly, you're not running the business logic in the back of the system, and you've got the potential to cause inconsistencies in your data. And when we went through it all and we looked at what you could do from a Business Central Online, the reality is they can do everything that they want in a much safer and programmatic way than what they were doing in SQL. So it's interesting when you get to that point. From a service perspective, this is April 2022. This has already changed, and this week in Directions in North America and next week in Directions in Asia, we will be talking about what we're doing with localization, how we're going further and further. But now we have the ability to add more and more countries as we release the service quite easily. So you'll see more and more countries being available for the online service. And that takes away the challenge, well, I don't have the online service available, so I'm going on-prem. Very important on that side. We have a lot of customers. These are a lot of logos or labels of the different customers using the system today, using Business Central. So we have a lot of customer stories around the product today. But I can talk about a few more that I want to talk about here that we've been doing recently across the world. So we do have something called a concierge. Some of you may or may not have dealt with the concierge, but the way what we're doing now is we're working with our customers, our long-term loyal customers, in certain cases to help them go on the journey from on-prem to online. So we're talking about customers with a large amount of users. We have one in particular, which is a high volume, 75,000 plus picking slips per month here in Australia with 350 users that I've worked with, that has been on the system for over, what are we up to, April, so 16 months. And we have learned through that customer how to make sure we continue with a reliable service. We have many stories that we will at some stage be sharing of these large customers with large volumes, high transaction volumes using the Business Central service. So it's not a question of whether it can handle the volume. It's a question of why can it not handle the volume that your customer does that use? And the way to answer that question is to work with the team at Companial or to work with our team through the concierge. And we will, if there is a challenge, we will call it out. But in most cases, these days, you're not going to find a challenge. It is ready for our larger data customers to migrate to the product today. And that's very important. And I've lived that directly myself. If you'd asked me that same thing 2 years ago, I would have said no. But a lot has changed. Let's just jump into some offers. So today we're on Bridge to the Cloud version 2, as we call it, promo. So this is for customers that are currently active on their enhancement plan or maintenance or BREP, however you want to call it. So they're currently paying a yearly fee to enable them to upgrade to the next version of Business Central and get fixes, etc. Basically the way it works is the online cost that they're spending on Business Central has got to be greater than or equal to the enhancement plan costs. So in other words, if the customer's currently paying $10,000 a year in maintenance, then the online cost will be $10,000 or more. The reason it's greater than or equal to is because when you do the licensing mix, getting to that exact amount is hard. So often you have to add 1 or 2 users extra. Additionally, to handle concurrency, we have promo users. So basically you can add users up to 2 times the enhancement plan costs extra to the system, and you get a promo code that enables the customer to use those users for free. So say, for instance, they're spending $10,000 annually. Should have chosen a better number, but say $10,000 annually, and say that is 10 users per month. It's about 1,000, yep, in Australia anyway. It's actually not right, but anyway, let's just say it's 10 users per month, but they need 16 users. Then this is a way where they can get the extra 6 users without having to pay more money for above their enhancement plan. So very important that. The thing to do that I would advise on this is my personal view, is don't oversubscribe, get the users they need, because 3 years from now, they literally are going to have to pay for those users. So nothing worse than a customer putting users on that are free and then realizing when they have to pay for them, they don't really want to use them. So just be careful with that a little bit. They get dual access rights, dual use rights. So this is it. Once I'm on this, I can deploy to the cloud and start using the cloud. So I don't actually lose anything because I'm already on-prem. Now I've got cloud access, and I don't have to go and buy licenses to get cloud access. And that's the reason we do this, is to try to take the license argument out of the migration. Plus, because they're loyal, we're giving a 40% discount off the list price of Business Central for a 3-year term and non-renewable. So after 3 years, they will go back to whatever offer we have for Business Central at that stage for customers migrating. So it's all partner led. It's through CSP, it's through commercial, and it's only for commercial customers, not for the educational, government or not-for-profit customers. And the sign-up time you've got from February 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2024. So any customers with maintenance renewals in this time zone should be looking at saying, well, actually, maybe I'll renew on Bridge to the Cloud, and that will enable me to migrate to the cloud from a license perspective. So very important side of this. Gives the customer flexibility and gives them time to do it. So keep that in mind when you're doing your renewals. There's another thing in here for you that I'll talk again about later, but the reality is you as a partner get a higher margin via CSP or new commerce than you do on the BREP. Okay, so once you've sold this, you're not going to be penalized on your percentage based off your renewal rate. Okay, this is basically straight CSP, and you'll get your discount off the list that you normally get through your disti or through direct if you're direct. So that's super important. More money for you, which is good. So why? So, we do have partners that are quite happy maintaining their existing customers. So why bother even doing this? So there's a couple of things that I'm seeing in the market I'm in. And there's a couple of things you should be aware of. So for starters, customers tend to see diminished value from the product because they originally did a 5-year total cost of ownership, And depending on what version of the product they are, they may be missing functionality these days that are very, very important for their business. So is the product really giving them back the value that it was meant to? Now that, for instance, if they're running a 10-year-old version, is it now outdated, and are they spending a lot of time in maintenance fixing things, or is it giving the value to actually compete in this changing world where we're trying to do more remote and hybrid work? Other things out of support. So I remember a couple of years ago sitting there with a customer that has actually since upgraded from Dynamics GP to Business Central, has been live for a couple of years now. And they had spent, I don't know, $600,000 on maintenance over the last 10 years. And they were trying to work out, well, why do I only get a 40, in their case, it was a 60% discount because of CSPEP. Why do I have to pay for this? I've been paying this maintenance for years. And it comes down to the discussion that Business Central Online is not just software, it's actually a service and infrastructure and so on. So there is a difference in what we're offering. But the reality is we do have customers that are paying maintenance today on products that are out of support. So the reason, why this is important, an out of support product causes risk to a customer. And they do get to the point where, well, okay, well, this product's no longer out of support. I need to replace it or upgrade it. So you want to be having that conversation if you want to keep your customer. And this third one is very important for everyone. There's a lot of evidence that there's some partners out there having the migration discussion, and there's partners that are not having the migration discussion. And I've seen it a few times now where a partner has all of a sudden found out that their customer is upgrading to Business Central with another partner. So it's there. It's a conversation you need to have if you want to retain that customer. If you don't have the conversation, you're leaving yourself open to lose that customer to another partner, or worse, the last one here, competitor. So our competitors, NetSuite, are very much out there trying to get people to upgrade off old versions of Navision or Nav, Dynamics Nav, Dynamics GP, and Dynamics AX for that thing, because they see it as a place where that customer has to make a decision on whether to move. I've actually seen customers sign up with other partners to migrate and not realize they can get a 40% discount. That's how bad it can get. So it's obviously someone's not having the conversation. Now, the other reason it's important from a business perspective, from running your practice, is the ongoing costs. So supporting multiple versions of a product is an overhead for your business. So if you're supporting Seaside products and you're supporting AL products, then you're going to have challenges, because now I've got to support a range of products. And people remembering that version 3.01 had this challenge with it, or this issue in costing, or whatever it was, versus Business Central Online current version is a potential cost. So there's an overhead of knowledge that you require. I mean, that's one of the reasons Business Central and Microsoft have moved to more an evergreen, and why our lifecycle is down, because it lowers our cost of maintenance. And then maintaining apps. So if I've created IP, or I've created IP, I suppose, is the main thing, or an actual app in AppSource, maintaining those apps for different versions. So I've got a version for on-prem, I've got a version for online. These days you should be cloud first, so to doing universal code to avoid those fees. But if I've got that version, that's great. But if I've also got a version for version 18, and I've got a version for version 17, and I've got a version for versions of Nav, then they're all versions of an app that I need to maintain. And then you get to the Microsoft point, is when I fix something, do I fix it for this version, or do I have to fix it for 5 versions back? So there's costs in not keeping up to date. Seeing ongoing costs. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I might have jumped across then. So let's talk about margin. So for starters, anything you sell on NCE or CSP is a higher margin for you, especially around the business ready enhancement stuff. On top of that, we have cloud incentives. So there's additional benefits when you sell cloud revenues from side, and then the margin on IP. So when you're selling IP that's ready for cloud first, deploying, keeping it up to date on apps is much easier. So you can got that ability to add margin to your business. And then the revenue side, and this is very important. So ongoing subscription revenue, and Why this is important is, as a business, you're probably trying to get new customers and new revenue. And that's probably very important from a perspective that I need new revenue coming from a licensing perspective to continue growing my business. The other side of this, which is why you would consider working with a partner such as Companial to help with your upgrades, you would be better having your resources working on those new revenue opportunities or opportunities that have brought you new revenue than putting resources towards customers that actually are not giving you any more new license revenue, only services revenue. Just think about that. If I sign up a new customer and that means they're going to be spending $50,000, let's just throw a number out, per annum new, and I'm going to be invoicing $50,000 worth of licenses more, and I have my implementation team go and implement that and get them up to date. And meanwhile, I have a customer who wants to migrate. I don't really have the resources for it, so I can talk to you can talk to Companial and get them to help you with the upgrade or do parts of the upgrade. That actual opportunity is not bringing you new revenue, it's retaining revenue. And that's why it's important to retention. You need to keep that revenue. You don't want to lose it. But at the same time, you need to focus on new revenue. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about growth and when it's best to work with Companial and when it's best to use your own resources. So just that's my version of my advice there. So revenue, potential to sell apps to your customer base and others. So, with AppSource, you can put an app up there, and before you know it, we've got customers in this region that are selling to Europe, Western Europe, etc., that would have never had that opportunity before. And it's literally loading the app on AppSource. Once it's there, the ability to deploy it and maintain it. And then the other side of it that the online service really brings to light is the expanding services. So all of a sudden I can, as we already talked about IP, but all of a sudden I can start to do Power Platform, I can do Dataverse, and I can start that simple. And then I can get into quite complex development of apps. So there's a lot of upside for you as customers to look at migration, A, because I want to retain the customer, I want to retain that revenue, and B, because I want to reduce my overheads. So revenue, reduce overheads, that's kind of how a business runs, right? So more margin. So I just want to, I think this is my last slide. I'm trying to remember now, sorry, Ugne. But this is very important to me. When people say to me the economy's slowing or this is slowing, I've been around long enough to see enough economies slowing and other change, world-ending events and all sorts of stuff to understand that in any sort of difficulty, there's always an opportunity. And when I look at Microsoft, our current market ownership of this particular segment or SMB sort of area, there's plenty of room for us to grow. In fact, there's nobody with the whole segment, so it's actually plenty of room to grow. So even if the economy slows, even if there's less customers, there's definitely customers that I already own that I can upgrade, and there's definitely new customers that are coming online that will continue to do. So as a business, having run a practice before, as you grow, as you get more business, you will run into a ceiling where you have to add new staff so add new staff or find another way to provide those services without adding staff. And I think that's where our partner Companial comes in. And I think Rene will talk a little bit about his experience now. But if you have any questions, please throw them into the chat and I'd be happy to answer those. I think the next slide is, yep, thank you. And then, on to Rene. Or back to Ugne.
Thanks so much, Tim. Thanks for sharing your insights. And it's definitely not the end of migration era. It's now the migration era. And what we can see also in our chat that majority of our partners still haven't moved half of their customers to the cloud, meaning their customers are still running on premises. And like bearing in mind what you've just shared with us, it gives a lot of food for our brains, right? A lot of incentives. The platform is ready, performance is there, with all the capabilities to extend the services. So what's missing, right? And here we have Rene Santos joining from PASI organization. And Rene, Also, Tim has shared success stories of those large and different size of customers running already on Business Central Online. So what is PASI experience? What should you as the partner organization, and what is your experience with Business Central Online implementations? What are the customer thoughts when we are going to them and talking about this topic?
Thank you so much, Ugne, and thank you so much, Satim, for the features of Business Central. So, first of all, let me introduce who we are. So, Performance Advantage Systems International is actually it has been in the industry for the last 21 years. So we have been incorporated in 2002. Um, we do have one of our biggest clients is actually on the retail sector and hospitality sector. So we do have like 10 years of experience in that line. Of course, not all our customers are in the retail and hospitality sector. So we also handle basically clients in the manufacturing side, in the finance sector, distribution as well. Now, out of our clients, now we have already 31% of these customers, we have already moved them, or most of them are running on the cloud. So they're running on Business Central on-prem. And then obviously, since they're using these are multiple companies, so we do have quite a number of installations already outside. So basically, in PASI, I mean, we have done a lot of things in terms of the ISVs, especially the Philippine localization, because compared to other regions, maybe, I mean, one of the things that we have in Asia Pacific is that we were not have been localized in terms of Microsoft doing it, but it's normally the partner who does that. So we did come up with an ISV to address the taxation requirements in the Philippines. So that's in outsource. And that's one of the things I'll mention later on, how we approach it. So we have this one in app source to make things easier for us and that of the customers. And then likewise, with the inception of the cloud, we started now to align with a lot of vendors. And one of them would be Companion in terms of how would you call this, the migration task, and even providing the infrastructure as a service, since Companion is doing that as well. And lately, as well, the offerings that they had for the learning, because as you well know, I mean, we do not, there is really no good, I mean, no special thing in Microsoft that does the training for partners. So we normally tap learning centers, and one of them is Companion for that. And other partners like Continia, for example, Click Learn, Aptian for food and process manufacturing, Jet Reports, or the Insight Works warehouse Insight. So these are some of the partners that we work hand in hand in order for us to be able to deliver the best solution for our clients. And then obviously, one of the differences is how we approach the way we do things in implementing Business Central. So that's what we do. Okay. So I know, Ogne, that one of the questions that you have asked me is what was my experience in doing implementation in Business Central that you would like, and the challenges that we have faced. Well, let me
and
share
also
one.
if you could elaborate on like comparing that with approaching your customers for Business Central on premise and your like legacy business like a few years ago, and now when you're approaching them for Business Central online implementations. Do you see any differences in that? If we could also expand on this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, since it's partners on this call, I mean, all of us partners have a different way of doing how to approach the implementation of BC or of Navision before. But I would I would like to believe that we do share common challenges, okay, when we do an ERP implementation. I mean, first is I do believe that, in order for a project to succeed, as I always tell my staff and some of our clients, since I normally head the business process review of most of our clients, is that to make a project successful, we have to have two things. We need to have technology, which we have, and that's Business Central. But the two most important things as well is like process. That is one of the challenges sometimes, because sometimes when you do an implementation, people that you deal with doesn't want to change. So they will say they want to stick it out with their own process. And Business Central is a fully integrated system, as Tim has mentioned. So we will have to put that into consideration. And that is how we will have to talk to them and tell them, hey, you need to do some changes in your process. And one of the most important things is also people. You may have the process. If the people or those that we implemented would not like to accept it, then we have a bigger problem. Because at the end of the day, we can only do as much, but we need these guys to implement or to use it the way we would like them to use it. Well, as much as possible, we do not want to do customization. Okay. Unlike maybe other partners may not agree with me, but for PASI, we always try to tell our clients, try to use what we have in Business Center, especially when we do the cloud version. Okay. And the reason for this is we say, okay, we try to help them come up with a different route, but get the same result. And then if and when we cannot actually convince them to really go to the process, we go to the first step. And that is actually find an application that is available in the market. Okay. So we don't jump into customization immediately, but we now tap our technology partners. That's where we tap Warehouse Insights, for example, for warehouse management system. That's where we tap Appian for our food and beverage system. And if they want to really go on the cloud, but they want to stick it out, having control on everything, that's where we tap you, Companial. Okay. So that's where we do things. And then the last of all is basically if we really can't do anything in the app, we cannot see anything in the app source, then that's the only time we customize. So the reason we always tell our clients is that because, especially if you're running the cloud, you are always upgraded to the latest version. And if you consistently now do the, how do you call this? The customization, the changes, and you don't use the one in App Source, then there's a probability that the upgrade that will come will not be pushed by Microsoft simply because you have an extension that's not compatible. So now that is where, again, another problem comes up. Do I do this? Do I have to change this now? And then Microsoft will push and say, you need to change it because we need to upgrade you. So that's the reason why we make sure that we explain this to the client and tell them, hey, okay, this is how we do it. And jumping a little bit. So if I have that, then we will have to tell them, hey, you need to come up with certain maintenance because we have to maintain the migration that, the customization that you have done so that will follow the future releases of BC Online. And one of the services of Companion, which is nice, is that I know that you have this option of those custom extensions that we have done, you could actually test out for the future releases. Then that's one thing that we can use so that you don't have to be limited with the app, but you can also do it on your own, but use Companion's features in order to manage it. Why? Because we don't want to use our current resources for those things. We would like to move on, do other projects, new projects, do other development work. So that's how we do it. Okay. And lastly, one thing I can share you with guys with is that how do I approach them in terms of moving our present install base to that of the cloud? As Tim mentioned a while ago, we took advantage of the promo of Microsoft. It started with the CPEP promo, then it went to the Bridge to the Cloud, then we have the Bridge to the Cloud 2. So all of this, we took advantage of it. We share that to the clients. We make sure during the renewals that there is such a thing. And we took advantage of the end of life of now. So this is the time for them to actually move on. So why don't you go to the cloud to make sure that you don't have to change your infra, You can try it out since anyway, it's a subscription. If you don't like it, we bring you back. You don't have to spend a lot. And one important thing is you're secured. As Steve mentioned a while ago, the security of the cloud, which right now they believe that it's more secure if you go to the cloud rather than to have it on-prem. And likewise, finally, is the upgrades. So that was one thing that actually triggered the clients to move. Why? Because that will be the last time they're going to upgrade. Okay? Because every time they are using the latest version, the new features and everything without paying us just to get that moving. So that's one way that we approach it. Okay, so that's it for me. So I hope I was able to share with you what we do and the best good practices that we do here in Manila. It may be different from the other parts of the world, but in our country, in our place, that's the way we handle it.
Thank you
so
very much, Rene. And also, over the last 21 years of experience you've had in ERP, and you're still operating as a very recognized partner there in the market. What is the return on investment from the perspective of implementing Business Central on-premise and Business Central online, or NAV Navision in the former days and now Business Central online?
Well, it's almost the same, okay? But obviously, right now with the cloud, we do have recurring things. Sometimes, if you look at it, obviously, when you go on-prem, you get your BREP. So you get that once a year. You might have a bigger margin in terms of the perpetual licenses. On the other hand, sometimes it's a challenge that you tell your clients that, hey guys, you need to pay another service in order for you to get support, and so on and so forth. With online, it's a little bit easier to give them a support program because there's no BREP. Okay, so instead of them paying BEP, okay, you need a support program so we can make sure that your online subscription is okay, that the extensions that we have done are okay. So it's a little bit more, easier for them to be convinced rather than before that, hey, there's BREP, so you should be supporting us. Now that there's no BREP, then we can actually charge them a little bit. And likewise with the new features, we can continue to do service for them. So we're now focused more on the services side rather than on the licensing side, because that's not where it is. It's really more on the service. That's where we come in. Okay.
Thanks so much, Rene, for sharing. And you also tapped a bit about migrations, but also customer maintenance on the cloud. And that's where Martynas will expand further. So Martynas will share migration strategies that we discuss with our partners and for their customer solutions, and also how we help partners to maintain their customer solutions on the cloud. So Martynas, over to you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rene. Thank you, Ugne.
Thank
Hello,
you,
everyone. And as Ugne explained, I have two topics for today. I'll try to be quick. We don't have a lot of time remaining in the webinar. So one of the topics is about the upgrading, how Companial can help you moving your customers into the Business Central online. And the second one is about when you have already the customers in the cloud, and Rene has mentioned that you still have an obligation to keep them there. If they have extensions, if they have their own customizations, those needs to be maintained in the BC Online, and we have an offering for that as well. So talking about the customer challenges for the upgrading to the Business Central Online, we often hear from our partners, there are several of those. The main one we usually receive is the capacity and the expertise. So the partners are a lot focused on the adding new customers and new revenue streams, while then there is no remaining capacity to move the existing customer base into the BC Online, and therefore they are struggling and not moving fast enough into the BC Online. As well, having capacity constraints usually comes up another problem. Challenge is about making the assessments for the customers, because each of the customer is unique and you need to build a unique proposal for them. You need to analyze the current customizations, current situation to migrate them, and it takes a lot of effort for the partners, and it's as well one of the reasons they are not doing it. There are other ones like having a risk on the cost involved. So even though you can spend some time on making the assessment, analyzing the situation of the customer, you might still go out of the budget to keep the promise to the customer what you need to deliver. And it takes a lot of time. If you don't have enough people, not enough skilled people to do the migrations, you can spend, well, the migration project can take too long, and customer might not want to wait for like 2 years until the full migration project is completing. They might expect it to happen in 3 months or 6 months, and so on. So to tackle those challenges, we from the Companial we have created so-called upgrade analyzer, a tool to do the assessments for the partners. This is a portal on our website which you can access 24/7, and it's very simple and easy to use, and as well free to use. So what it does save time for the partners, because it analyzes your customer solutions to provide you with the assessments of how to migrate to the Business Central Online. As well, you can easily compare different options, because there are multiple ways of how you can move into the Business Central Online, and we are showing them, and you can easily compare how one differs from another. You are minimizing your risk, because all our proposals, all our assessments are fixed price. So we take the risk on our side to do the migration, and you can easily create a detailed plan on the next steps when the migration is completed. So the process of using our upgrade analyzer is pretty simple. On the portal, we have an upload form where we ask to enter some key information about the request. So some kind of information like the name of the customer. It's not for us, it's for you, because you might upload multiple customers, so that you would know which one request is for which customer. And the main thing we ask is an FOB file or a zip file containing AL code. So the source code of the customer, so that we could do the analysis of the solution. Once you submit a request, in 5 business days, we are coming up with the analysis results to you. So it is like you would receive an email confirmation, notification that we have completed the analysis, and you can go into our portal to check what is the result. You can choose from different options you see on the screen, and then you can request an agreement and have a successful upgrade project with us. So how those options, out of the box options in the upgrade analyzer look like? So it's just an example screenshot of the options, so you can see the 5 options we have. They are grouped in 2 categories. One category for upgrade to the Business Central on premises, and another to Business Central Online. And in each category, there are multiple options. So the first one is the clean start. It applies both for the on-prem and for going to BC Online. So clean start is moving data only into the Business Central. So all of the customizations are left behind, but all of the data, all customers' custom data, all data in the ISV solutions are being moved into the Business Central. We are creating an extension for the customer for their custom data structures, but not moving any related customizations, only data. And then you can start from that point. As Rene mentioned, you usually try to keep the solution as clean as possible and discuss with the customer whether some additional customizations are needed or not, or maybe installing new ISV solutions, but then trying to keep the solution as clean as possible. It usually fits for the customers who can change the logic they were working, the processes, they are flexible, or for the customers that are working for a very long time with an AV, and they have outdated customizations, which cleaning up might be a bit too complicated, and it's easier just to go clean and build what is really necessary for the customer on top. Another option that you will find as well is the full upgrade. So upgrade to BC Online or to BC On-Prem. And this full upgrade is including both the data and customization. So we would be creating an extension, per tenant extension for your customer to move all of the customizations that are currently in the solution. Of course, you can do the cleanup, remove unnecessary customizations. We would do scoping with you, help you to choose which areas are more complicated to move to BC Online and consider cleaning up those. But the result of the migration is having full solution migrated into the Business Central. And in the migration to the Business Central Online, there is a third option for the lift and shift, which is basically in the first step moving into the Business Central On-Prem. Then there are certain limitations you cannot easily resolve of the Business Central Online, like missing event publishers. And then we work with Microsoft by requesting those additional features to be added in the base application. And once those are added, then we are shifting into the Business Central Online. And this can be like half a year, 1 year difference between the lift phase and the shift phase. And in between, customer can go live, work with the Business Central solution, which is new one, secure, and even they can host the solution on our self-provisioning platform, so they don't need to invest in the infrastructure for that period of time while the customer will be waiting for the shift phase. After the webinar, we will be sharing a link to a white paper, to the ebook, where you can read more about the different options going into the Business Central Online and what to consider. So just have a look to that, downloadable when you receive it. And as mentioned before, there is another issue with the getting into the Business Central Online is that, well, it's not the final upgrade that you will have, even though Microsoft has automated the upgrade cycle in the Business Central Online. But if you have your own customizations, well, it will not be the last one you will do. You will have many more small ones, which might require some of the attention from your side to maintain that customization. So how does it look like? How the customizations lifecycle in the Business Central SaaS looks like? So once you are in the Business Central Online, so you have every month cumulative updates or minor releases from Microsoft, and those have small changes inside, a small turbulence for your flight, but usually it does not break anything, and you can smoothly fly through those minor updates without any kind of need for the adjustments of the extension. And then every half a year, there is a new major release coming up with a bit more changes, and those changes might be affecting your per tenant extension, and you might have a much bigger turbulence, and you might have to take some of the actions to make your extension work on the new version of the Business Central. And for that, to make the extension work, you have 60 days period from the release of the major release from Microsoft. So this is a time window when all the ISVs should update their code, and after ISVs has updated their code and it's working for a new version, a customer extensions, per tenant extension has to be updated as well. And if you fail to keep your updates within this window, there is a problem that your customer tenant still has to be updated, despite the fact that some of the extensions are not compatible with the new version, and those extensions would be removed from the customer tenant, and there would be a 150 days time window to take your data from the those extensions that have been removed and do something with it. But if you have solved all your issues in those 60 days, you managed to uplift your extension into the newest Business Central version, then you are okay to continue using the solution and benefit again from the additional minor releases from Microsoft. And then in half a year, you get again a major release with which one you need to take certain actions. So how do we help partners in this situation? So we have a service called Extension Maintenance Subscription Service, which is applicable for both apps on the app source and for the per tenant extensions for the customers. And we are providing a fixed monthly fee for a solution to be maintained on the Business Central Online. And with this, we are testing the solution with each major release, checking if everything is still compiling, if there is no breaking changes for the application, and we are resolving all of the conflicts that arises. We run as well the automated tests that you have built for your extension, fixing issues if those comes up from the result of the testing, and if the automated test needs to be updated, we are as well doing that. And if it's the service for the app source app, we can as well do the app source pre-validation, so checking everything that you wouldn't have any problems by updating your app on the app source. And the value for you using the service from our side is that we are removing the overhead from your side. So you don't need to take into account when the new major release is coming up, how to plan the resources to be able to fit in this 60 days window, so that all of the customers and extensions would be updated. So you can focus on your main business, doing new implementations, getting new revenue streams, and you don't have these capacity spikes that takes your resources out of the projects, and now you need to fix everything ASAP to maintain the customers on the Business Central Online. And as well, it's a predictable total cost of the ownership, so you always know what you will be paying in the future. So we are giving a fixed price monthly fee, and it's like you should look it into like it's an insurance. So if something will happen, we will fix it, and you don't need to worry about how much it will cost you. Will we spend hundreds of hours fixing it or only few? The cost will still remain the same. Yeah, so that's it from my side with the presentation. So yeah, I think we are out of time, a bit late.
Yes, so we are running out of time, and thanks, Martynas, for sharing all the nice tips and tricks of migration strategies and how to maintain the solutions on the cloud. And you can, of course, always be on Companial for help and advice or assessment for that. So if you still have some time, just a quick wrap up. Let's summarize what we have heard today. And I will ask each of you, Tim, Rene, and Martynas, to share one insight that you are taking away from today's webinar. So Tim, starting from you, if you could share one suggestion, one advice, or one insight that you are taking away with you from today's webinar.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think the thing to take away is make sure you retain your customers.
Thanks, Rene.
Well, same here. I mean, for me, is go for the cloud and just implement it the way it is, and you should be good.
Thank you, Martynas.
I would say that don't let your capacity and your strategy be a problem of migrating the customer. So the objection should come not from the partner, not from you going into the Business Central Online, but the customer needs to decide that.
Thanks so much for sharing, and also partners who joined. If you have any questions, please, you can drop them in the chat, or you can send them by email to our team and they will be answered. And let's meet live next week. Myself and Rimvidas are attending Directions Asia in Thailand, Bangkok, and we are having a session. So it would be great to see you there. And please drop me a line if you would like to schedule a meeting and discuss those migration strategies in more detail at the event. Thanks so much for joining all the speakers and all the attendees, and looking forward to talking to you and meeting you all soon. Have a wonderful day, have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you soon.